Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the show. My name is Spencer Walsh. Thank you so much for sticking with us today on the Wake Up. We have a lot of good stuff to get into today. It's all about the State of the Union. Was Trump successful in playing nice? Was he efficient in rejecting the politics of revenge? We'll get the reaction, tell you everything you need to know from the speech, and maybe even, if we're good on time, play you a little clip. All right, so let's get right into it. So, at the Hill last night, I will get the wall built. President Trump tried to sell the country a positive vision during last night's State of the Union address, but the darker, nativist vision of America, the one in which violent migrants stampede the border, committing crime, was the not-so-subtle subtext. Trump didn't go so far as to declare a national emergency to build his wall along the southern border, but he painted the fight for a physical barrier in moral terms, urging Americans to defend our very dangerous southern border out of love and devotion to our fellow citizens and to our country. So he pretty much said, we need to do it. If we don't do it, it's going to kill us. But he pretty much said it in the chillest possible way, which is rare for Trump. Embracing legal immigration. Trump said it was cruel, not compassionate, and that no issue better divided political elites from mainstream Americans. Actually, no issue better divides you from mainstream Americans, because a lot of your base is the only one who has your back on this issue, and polls really tend to show it. So that part of the speech was as much the voice of Stephen Miller, who helped author the address of the president himself, one of the few original advisors still standing in Trump White House. The hardliners' fingerprints were all over Trump's confrontational immigration words, a taunt that is leading the president to seemingly inevitable clash with congressional Democrats as the second deadline to fund the government years February 15th. So yeah, that's going to be a real problem. What is going to happen there? Will there be a national emergency? Will there be a government shutdown? We don't know. And either way, it's not going to look good for Trump. But the onus here is on Trump. The polls show it. The pressure is on him to kind of really make a change, because he has been the one who has been struggling probably the most in terms of the polls, in terms of the popularity and everything else like that. So, yeah, so described by colleagues as maniacally obsessed with immigration, but at times lacking in political savvy, Miller's loyalty to Trump is responsible for his longevity and expanded influence as someone who has their hand on Trump's spoken word on nearly every issue, according to some of Miller's former colleagues. Interesting speech from outside the White House. He said, "This unity speech is ridiculous," Stephen Bannon told the Washington Post. "After you lose an election and box yourself in on this negotiation, it's not when you pitch unity. Trump has China, the wall, Syria, and Afghanistan. Three legs of why Trump is president are coming together. If he blinks on China, blinks on the wall, I don't think he runs in 2020. I think he throws in the towel," Bannon added. So, that's what he says. It's very everyone's kind of very disturbed about that. A lot of people on the outside, and Coulter also ripped the speech. He said it was the sappiest speech ever. And yeah, she really needs to be careful. She thinks she's more popular with Trump's base than Trump. He is seriously lacking if she thinks that, because remember, Daddy Trump has the real power and at all times. So you're just gonna have to deal with that. So yeah. So he said a former White House official said he's the keeper of campaign promises. Banner was the keeper of that list, and now he's gone. He also has a pen on every speech that the president gives. Miller's crafting all of them, which means he has the last scrub over all the policy. It's a pretty simple recipe, to be honest, said the official of Miller's influence. Those inside the White House characterized Miller as an uber strategist for policy objectives, much like Karl Rove and David Axelrod, or the role they serve, but Miller's imprint is also reflective of Trump's basic instincts on the core of immigration. Aides said that the key to Miller's staying power is that when things go wrong in the Trump world, he successfully stays in the policy lane and makes necessary accommodations with the voices of moderation, including Ivanka and Jared. So yeah, he actually gets along with them, unlike everyone else from the hardliner right wing, who just hated them and fought with them all the time. That was the consistent and continuous problem. So Trump began and ended his 82-minute speech with a unifying tone that was in conflict with many of his actions and statements over the past month of his presidency, reported the Post. New York Times' Peter Baker reports the concept of comity did not sit well with the president himself, still stung by his failure as a partial government shutdown to pressure Congress into paying for his border wall. Trump has been hardly in the mood for collaboration with the other party anyway. He and his team that drafted the address in recent days, he has groused about the text, complaining that it's too gentle on Democrats, according to people briefed on the matter. So yeah, his speech last night, he thought he wanted to be more aggressive on Democrats. So who knows, again, what he's going to be tweeting today about this, because, yeah, we just don't know. We just don't know what he's going to be tweeting when he wakes up this morning. He sees Fox and Friends. Possibly they're a little critical, feels the need to kind of strike back on that, which is, who knows. The bipartisan overtures were a far cry from Trump's private comments earlier in the day to network news anchors, according to the Times' Peter Baker and Michael Birnbaum. Despite all of Tuesday's Fox TV, the president continues to tell advisors that he wants to make his 2020 campaign a strident referendum on immigration, seeing that as an issue that won him the presidency, and he's still considering a national emergency to build a border wall. And at this luncheon, Trump dismissed former Vice President Joseph Biden as dumb, called Senator Chuck Schumer a nasty son of a bitch. So this is, again, at the literal... this is the literal kind of literal opinions. This is unfiltered stuff. He actually said this at a luncheon with news anchors. So he called Chuck Schumer nasty son of a bitch, and he mocked Governor Ralph Northam of Virginia, who said choked like a dog at a news conference where he tried to explain a racist photo, according to people in the room. I mean, honestly, where's the little eye? He did choke like a dog there. But Trump did dismiss the former Vice President Joseph Biden as dumb. So that is something, again, also I think it's true, calling these people out. But yeah, again, it's who Trump is. It's really who Trump is. And Robert Costa said, if you're looking for a presidential pivot, he said this on Twitter, recall that this is the tone and language on immigration is exactly what President Trump sounded like when he launched his first bid in 2015, almost 4 years ago. That was before Miller, before Bannon. This is who he is. Yeah, so a little bit more chill there, from a little bit more chill, but not like screaming and hooting, not the stuff like the mob wants him to be, like his mob supporters, but still a lot of people were very kind of perturbed by some of his native language. He wasn't out and saying it, just out and about like he does at the rallies, like he does on Twitter and all that stuff, but it was very much still there. Even if your TV was on mute last night, it was difficult to miss the new power on visible display as House Democrat women cloaked themselves in white outfits to symbolize the fight for women's rights, with Speaker Nancy Pelosi hovering over Trump's shoulder and the camera panning to Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez every 5 minutes for a reaction shot. The Democrats rivaled Trump in a commanding chamber that for 2 years gave him a warm Republican embrace. So now, not the case anymore. But afterwards, Trump's bipartisan outreach was not well received by Democrats and offered really some blunt responses. So Trump's comments on illegal immigration elicited really some groans, even, according to people in the room, the big room last night. Leading Nancy Pelosi to raise her hand in an attempt to quiet her members. Representative Ilhan Omar, a former Somali refugee, listened while holding her head in her hands, Vivek and Kane report. Apparently she was also at one point on her phone while people were standing up and clapping, so she was just like, I don't, screw this guy, right? So it was pretty funny there. Reaction from Burgess Everett, Heather Cagle, and John Bresnahan of Politico. They went around getting some reaction. WTF, says Mazie Hirono, after Trump's immigration rhetoric. Dick Durbin called the speech sickening. Emmanuel Cleaver said he wasn't sure that Washington even needs to hold a State of the Union anymore. And Jerry Connolly invoked Richard Nixon three times when discussing Trump's speech. So that is pretty incredible. Jim Berkeley says, I heard no unity tonight, even on the issues on which I think should be bipartisan basis, taking on the high cost of drugs, doing a significant investment on infrastructure. We heard no details and no plan. That's a good point. Very good point there. We had the same empty campaign-style rhetoric we heard before. Yeah, hey, it would be nice if we take down the cost of drugs. Mitch McConnell doesn't clap. No support from establishment Republicans. He hates it. Trump doesn't do it. He said probably that same thing he said last night about drugs and all that about 16 times, and he's never moved to do anything about it. So it'll be interesting to see if he can actually work with people like Bernie Sanders who have actually been introducing bills on this and actually pushing for it, or because that would be a real step, lowering substantially and significantly lowering the cost of prescription drugs. But the problem is there's going to be a real problem. There is going to be a real debate about whether they can actually do that, whether they can actually work to figure that out, because there's just so much difference between, Mitch McConnell obviously doesn't want it done. Trump seems to have no plan for it, and we just don't know how it's going to work. Even West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, often the president's only ally among Senate Democrats, said the president could have done without the immigration rhetoric, saying that, quote, that part should have been left out. As for Republicans, their thunderous applause and gushing accolades offered a reminder for all their policy differences and frustration that the GOP is still very much the party of Trump. That's a very important thing. Probably one of the arguments that triggers me most in politics today is the idea, the thought, the belief that Trump is not, that the GOP is not the party of Trump. There's still some never Trump Republicans out there. No, you are kidding yourself. So outside the Beltway, Stacey Abrams, the first African-American woman to deliver the official response to the State of the Union, delivered a sharp rebuke of Trump and the Republican Party, managed to avoid any distracting gulps of water, obvious missteps, or production pitfalls during the process. The Post's Vanessa Williams and Sean Sullivan report that her 11-minute speech Abrams sought to sharpen the distinctions Democrats are seeking to draw with Trump and the GOP ahead of the next election, as well as introduce herself to a broad audience ahead of a possible Senate run in Georgia, a potential 2020 battleground. I would like to see her run again for Senate there. The excitement surrounding Abrams' speech, which she delivered from an electrical workers union hall in Atlanta, that's pretty nice, union representatives, was hard to miss in recent days. Abrams has been really a marquee figure in a party after being elected to the nation's first female black governor, nearly being elected the first nation's female black governor in Georgia in November. So, yeah, she really hit voting rights has been a big issue for her. She had to deal with that to some degree during her election. And also, she had a lot of working class issues. She had a great story. I mean, I was like, wow, that's a cool dude, her dad. She had a lot of working class issues, supporting unions. She talked about healthcare. She talked about really the issues that people care about. She didn't talk about immigration or a wall or anything like that. She really liked her response. And that's why I think, honestly, probably the best possible choice was for Chuck Schumer to make was Stacey Abrams, because she did for the first time in recent memory, she actually did a good response to State of the Union. We don't see that very often. So yeah, Democratic strategists praise Abrams for striking a more moderate tone, and apparently, according to Stacey Abrams, according to Jake Tapper, Stacey said she did not watch the president's speech. Instead, she focused on the policies, not the words tonight. Smart approach, because the policies, again, as I'm sure we know, are what really govern. So yeah, one of the most eye-rolling lines during Trump's speech, and I think Nancy Pelosi literally rolled her eyes behind him at this, was the false dilemma he posed between war and investigation, saying, quote, "An economic miracle is taking place in the United States, and the only thing that can stop it are foolish words, politics, or ridiculous partisan investigations. If there's going to be peace legislation, there cannot be war and investigation." So it was a line that reminded some of the President Richard Nixon, 1 year of Watergate is enough, during 1974's State of the Union address. So, yeah, so here's what's happening today on the rest of the week in terms of some investigations. There's a lot of stuff going on about that. The House Oversight Committee will be holding a hearing on the H.R. 1, which is ethics reforms for the executive branch for the PEOPLE Act. The American people